Welcome back, Tiger fans, to Rockin' Radio's football podcast. I'm Nate Edwards. That's Nathan Hurst. This is Before the Box Score, your post-game Mississippi State dish coming to you Sunday night. So we had a whole almost 24 hours to think about it. Win's a win, man. I know it's not as exciting as it was when Missouri had playoff hopes on the line. I know there's a very, 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 very outside chance that Missouri can make the playoff. Mostly depends on what they do this week. But you know what? With all the things swirling around the off-field stuff, you still got to see what ended up being a pretty comfortable win. The first win in 28 days, and really the most first two-score win since, UMass. And you got to see Ahmad Hardy run for 300 yards. Nathan Hurst, how are you doing today?
Doing good. It was a fun game to go to. It was a weird feeling game. Mizzou kind of took control there, middle of the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
So the second half just felt strange. Weird ref calls, weird play calls, weird defensive calls, penalties, stuff. It was just strange, but it was fun. It was fun to watch Ahmad Hardy finally do what we knew, he could do. It had been a while since he was able to be unleashed in that way.
Mm-hmm.
So that was fun. I have to admit, I probably would have left the game a little early had I not realized that he was at the time 50-ish yards away from the single game record, Mizzou record,
mm-hmm.
of 319 yards set by Devin West in 1998. But realized that, and it's like, no, this game's over, yes, but I want to stick around and see if Hardy's even going to come out, because the game was in hand. They could have easily given it to Marquise Davis and run it,
mm-hmm.
and they brought him out. So like, okay, I'm here. I want to see what, and they gave it a go. He got about 30 of the 20 yards that he needed to break the record, but unfortunately the clock ran out and they took a knee, which, they did need to take the knee, but also it would have been pretty fun if they had handed it off one more time.
You're tempting fate at that point. At that point in the game, they were only handing it off to him, and Mississippi State was like, all right, we're not going to let you do it. Whatever you're trying to do, we don't want you to do it.
He still got 30 yards on.
He still got 30 yards.
5 carries.
Yeah,
doing that.
But they got to 300, and they're like, okay, all right. We got it.
Had this game actually meant something in that, had they won one of the games they'd lost and they were still very much in the playoff race,
mm-hmm.
he would not have come out for that drive, because you would have had something to protect him for. That really, unfortunately, isn't the case anymore. So you might as well go for it, I guess. They got into the nice round 300. That looks really nice. I believe the number I saw this morning was 6 SEC players have ever rushed for 300 yards in a game. He is now one of them. So that's pretty awesome.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. It was as much, the Ahmad Hardy let him go game as much as it was, the defensive havoc game. We knew going in that Mississippi State's offensive line was shambolic at times. We knew that Mizzou had some pent-up frustration from the Marcel Reed less than 2-second release game from the prior week. Wow, they really just uncorked a heaping pile of crap on top of that offensive line, and Blake Shapen got knocked around a lot. A lot of tackles for loss, not a lot of hard hits. Chris McClellan got in on the game. Darius Smith out of nowhere, the Darius Smith game. Dayton Hopkins was getting in there, as since Nate Johnson was out. Really, it's such an old school game. You ran the ball really well, and your defensive line wrecked shop. Like, how much more old school can you get than that?
Yeah, It ended up being, we had both talked about it being higher scoring than you would think.
Yeah.
Having watched previous Mizzou games, it ended up being even more so than that. I think having the benefit of 2 pick sixes helps skew the final score there quite a bit. But yeah, it was old school in that it was whoever won the line of scrimmage was going to win the game, and Mizzou definitively won the line of scrimmage, which we figured they would. And they've, to be honest, done most of the season minus, last week. Minus Alabama, minus Auburn, I would suppose, would be the third where they didn't actually definitively win the line of scrimmage. And they usually win the game when they do win the line of scrimmage, and they did.
Yeah.
They didn't quite get to our 40 carries number though, which is a little disappointing. To be honest, I'm going to blame. I don't know who I'm going to blame. I'm going to blame somebody.
We're going to blame Mississippi State for running like 80 plays.
Well, we'll blame the refs for extending one of those drives to 16 plays, 8 plays inside the 10-yard line, and still they couldn't score. We'll blame them for running all the clock out. And we'll also blame them for Ahmad Hardy not getting 320 yards rushing because they ran off so much clock that he didn't have time.
Mississippi State had 43 pass plays and 46 rushing plays. That's 89 plays, man.
It's a lot.
89.
Perhaps the most shocking statistic of all, regardless of the outcome of the game, was the time of possession statistic.
Yeah.
Knowing how these teams typically like to play, Mississippi State plays very up-tempo, fast, a lot like how Mizzou played under Josh Heupel when he was calling up the plays, just run to the ball. And we saw them; they saw them do that, but they ended up controlling the ball for 30. I didn't see the finals. At one point towards the end of the game, it was 30 minutes Mississippi State to 17. And that was early in the fourth quarter. So I think it probably evened up a little bit by the end.
So by the end of the game, 36 minutes and 42 seconds for Mississippi State and 23 minutes and 18 seconds for Missouri.
So 2-1, Mississippi State controlled the time possession, which is just crazy. Mm-hmm. And if you saw that, if that's the only stat you had heard at the start of before the game started, you might think, oh no, Mizzou might be in trouble. But thankfully, 2 pick sixes helped turn that around quite a bit. We just talked about 8 plays within the 10-yard line, and the defense bows its neck, and they get out of there without any points. Those 3 things really help shift a 2-1 time possession completely in the other direction.
Yeah, and that's the weirdest part, because each side played the way they wanted to play. Mississippi State did play fast. Missouri did play slow. Mississippi State did throw the ball a lot. Missouri ran the ball a lot, and yet Missouri was not only efficient, but they were explosive. And Mississippi State was only really explosive. They were not super efficient at all. And yes, you could say, oh, well, they're also aided by penalties. Sure, yes. But they just ran a ton of plays. They just did enough to hold possession. And yes, of course, 8 plays within the 10-yard line there in the first half, so that'll do it. But they were not efficient at all. It was comical how bad they were at moving the ball and the ways that they were able to just barely keep going. I mean, defense, getting into this, I saw a matchup that was very clearly like, hey, they could take advantage of some things here. And Missouri's defense had to be super havocy, or at least had to be very controlling, because if Mississippi State was given a shot to connect on a big play, they were going to do it. And this defense does like to give up explosive plays at times. And you just didn't see it. You didn't see it all that often. Now, a lot of that was curious play calling or curious decision making from the quarterbacks. I think towards the end of in the red zone, they ran 6 straight quarterback sneaks, or quarterback rushes, and they were designed rushes. These were not like scrambling around after the pass. Like, it was the quarterback is running with the ball. Even the play call, or sorry, the commentating crew mentioned it on the play cast. I counted it as I was tracking the game. Whether Blake Shapen was deciding this or the play was called in, 6 designed quarterback runs. That's very silly when you have excellent receivers who can operate in the smaller field like that. So they did not do themselves a ton of favors. But even then, 89 plays, and I think Missouri ran 40 something. And part of that is because Ahmad Hardy went beast mode on everybody and ripped off several explosive runs. That's really the difference in how you can play. Each side can play both their style, and yet time of possession, which is an antiquated stat, but a fun one to track, is what it is at this point, because, wow, Mississippi State was just given a lot of opportunities.
Yeah. Time possession doesn't really matter until it does. And I think this game is on the side of it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But yeah, when you look at Mizzou, Alabama, though, you flip it the other way around. It doesn't matter until it does, and it very much mattered in that game. Yeah. So it's one of those that you can kind of use to make your argument one way or the other, depending on what you're trying to argue. Yeah.
And on the defensive side, this defense looked prepared. This was the second straight year in which a Jeff Lebby offense, which at least from a reputation standpoint, rips off explosive plays and throws it a ton, comes up against a Corey Batoon unit and just can't do much. Now, the design of Lebby's offense, they will get yards, they will get points. There's not really stopping that. But you minimize it, and they have minimized it 2 straight years in a row. I was really impressed with the secondary. They've been lit up by a lot of offensive passing games this year, mostly on the explosive side, and you really didn't see a whole lot of that. I know Stephen Hall was called out for a face mask penalty. I know it wasn't perfect, but boy, you had two pick sixes. You had tip passes all over the place. Shapen and Taylor did not really feel comfortable throwing anywhere along the field. The coverage was really, really good. And that allowed Missouri's defensive line to have enough time to get in there and wreck shop. I mean, I don't know if this was the best defensive performance of the year. Obviously, you'd prefer that against like a Vanderbilt or an Alabama. But just from a havoc standpoint, from a production standpoint, this might have been it, especially since it was an SEC opponent.
Yeah, they played really well. And to your point, I will give the secondary credit. Really going back to the Alabama game, starting then, they've given up some explosive plays, but the explosive plays that they've given up have been plays where the other team has beat them, done really good, and there's certain passes, certain receivers that you just can't cover. And with the exception of, I can think of one play where there was a busted coverage on Cam Coleman against Auburn, and Coleman had a couple other big plays too, but that was just him being a monster. Other than that, there have not been those busted coverages, communication problems that kind of riddled them early in the year. You haven't seen those. Credit to the coaches, credit to the players. They've cleaned that up quite a bit, to the point where the only time that you're seeing those big explosive pass plays are where the other team just makes a really good play. Last night, the first big explosive play they had, that was a missed tackle. So that's a play. Marvin Brooks kind of screaming up, trying to absolutely destroy somebody. The guy who catches the ball, he whiffs, and then you've got a long run after that. So you'd like him to play that a little bit differently, but that was the result of just almost over effort as opposed to a mental mistake. And we just haven't seen those mental mistakes since I think up until before the Alabama game. Now Alabama game was the first game where they really played up to where you hope that they would.
Yeah. And this is a defensive unit that was missing Josiah Trotter for a good chunk of the game. And knock wood, glad both of those targeting penalties were in the first half and not the second. Whew. Because you never want to lose anybody for targeting, certainly not against Oklahoma. So yeah, we'll take those where they are. But again, it really didn't matter. Mississippi State was able to move it a little bit, but Missouri was tackling machines, man. 33% of their defensive plays were havoc, like swatting away a pass, picking off a pass, tackle for loss, sack. Holy cow, 33%.
That's a lot.
And that's over 89 plays.
One of every set of down. Every set of downs they have, one of those plays had havoc in it. That makes it, and that's how they were so inefficient. Is 1 out of every 3 plays if you're trying to get 10 yards, and one of them is something bad, not just neutral happening, but something actively bad happening to you as an offense. That's going to make it very, very difficult to move the ball.
Yep. I said it in the preview, you don't want to force Mississippi State to throw because that's where their explosives are, but it's a higher variance. And they just kept rolling threes and nothing was connecting. It was the best way to do it. And they played it to script. It was great to watch. I looked at the score. I wasn't watching it live at the time. I picked it up about halfway through. And I was seeing the score kind of go through. I was like, 14-10, 21-10. What's going I don't know. And I missed all the craziness of the first half. And then really, they just started pulling away with it. They focused on the ground game and that was it. But yeah, I will say, I know what we said about Matt Zollers. And I know we're hey, he should never throw the ball. His stat line is about as close as you're going to get to never throw the ball in a college game. 15 passes. Technically 17 attempted, but 2 of those were intentional grounding. Intentional grounding. A lot of adventure with that penalty there. Let's just call it 17 pass plays. That's not bad. And considering he threw 2 touchdown passes off of that, and really only one that I would say looked pretty bad, the interception. He had a couple overthrows, but he was given a smaller menu to work from. He was able to connect over the middle. His timing on some of those passes was a lot better than what we'd seen. And of course, Donovan Olugbide made him look like a genius on that touchdown pass. Overall, grade for Matt Zollers, 2 touchdowns, 2 sacks technically. What would you say? B?
I Adjusted for the situation, B to B minus. It was significantly better than last week.
Yeah. Significantly easier defense.
Yes, that's my next point is he had much more time to throw, a much more comfortable, clean pocket. Part of that credit goes to the offensive line. They played well.
Yeah.
Most of that I would say goes to Mississippi State's lack of a competitive defensive line. But he was comfortable in the pocket, wasn't rushing his throws. The interception was bad. I need to go back and rewatch that from my seat quite high up. I really couldn't see what was there. Was it a bad throw? I don't think it was a bad decision necessarily there. That said, when he was releasing the ball from my vantage point, I thought he was throwing to Kevin Coleman, who was wide open on a post in the middle of the field, about 30 yards down the field, and probably would have been a touchdown. He didn't. He was probably going with his first read where he was staring that guy down, and that resulted in the touchdown. That was my inclination. Or it resulted in the interception rather. Need to go back and rewatch that again. If he had gone to Coleman and thrown a good ball, he had the time in the pocket to do that. It would have probably been a touchdown. So that's something that they'll go back and look at in the tape for sure. First quarter, he was great. He looked really sharp in the first quarter. Now they probably scripted a lot of those plays and told him we're going to run these for sure. That little Manning stop route would get him the ball, and then he took it from there. I mean, he gets most of the credit for scoring that touchdown. He broke 3 or 4 tackles there. But perfect timing. He hit him right as he stopped at the top of his route and turned around. The throw to Olubade was perfect. That's exactly where that ball needed to be to score a touchdown on that play. Once again, Olubade gets a lot of credit for making a great catch there, but that's where the ball needs to be, and he put it there. So that was the first half. Second half was a little more shaky, but they didn't need him to carry the world. And when you're running for 8.4 yards per carry, actually higher than that if you take away the sacks, it's going to look a lot better. So.
Yeah.
Or there's no reason to throw, rather, is what I was going to say.
I think if you take out the sacks, it's probably 35 rushes, 350 yards. So 10 yards per carry.
Yeah.
12 for Hardy, 5 for Roberts, and then Folks had 6 yards. So yeah.
He had 1 for 5, which, that was fine. I kind of liked getting him the ball. I mean, you see that guy running the ball, even on a little jet sweep like they gave it to him. That guy running in a straight line can move. He's got a long stride. We had talked about it back when he had committed, how he reminded me, and I'll take a little bit of credit for this. He reminded me a lot of Demario Alexander in terms of his long stride. And he's got that long stride, and he can move. Now we'll see as a receiver if he can turn out to be, the same type of receiver that Alexander was.
Sure.
But when he's got the ball in his hands and he's running, he looks a lot like Demario did.
And that's why he's returning kicks, man. Like, he's got a lot of speed. Yeah, I know they spent a good chunk of the broadcast talking about how fast Brennan Thompson was, and he is. I get that, but Folks has got that, man. And it's there. Pretty good day for Zollers. Wasn't asked to do a lot. Did have to run that short side boot to Norfleet twice.
The first time was the third and short. That was the one call of the day that really I had could point to, like, this was once again coming out of a timeout. It seems like calling a timeout before a big play call is not a good thing for this team. They either overthink it, they get in their head. I don't know what happens, but they are very poor at coming up with the best play call out of a timeout. And actually, this is the second time, because if you remember, they ran that same play with Prbula against Vanderbilt down on the goal line out of a timeout, short side of the field. The exact same thing happened both times. Norfleet's covered. There's no one else to throw to. You have no room for the quarterback to scramble because he's running out of bounds. No room for Norfleet to make a move to get open because he's also running out of bounds by the time the play gets around there. It's just a disastrous decision. Thankfully, it didn't end up mattering. But when you're at the time, they were already rushing for 8 yards of carry, and it was 3rd and 2. What are we doing?
Keeping them on their toes, Nathan Hurst. That's what we're doing.
Well, yeah.
Much like Jeff Lebby's quarterback substitution patterns. I don't know what the hell he was smoking.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's one of those where when both of those decisions on either end are one of those where when the other fan base is going, yes, thank you, please keep doing that, that you need to reconsider what you're doing.
I mean, they had some awesome plays when both were on the field, and I was like, stop doing that. I hate that. And then it's like, hey, we're running it really well. All right, we're gonna sub out Camario. I'm gonna put in Blake, and then we're gonna run it some more. And I was like, okay.
But the guy who can't really run very well.
I mean, he ran for 2 touchdowns, but no, he was not super great at it. Yeah, I know state fans were not pleased about that, and we were. So there you go. But yeah, it's a tendency thing, like going back, Brett Norfleet, when he's out, they'll run out Jordan Harris for any rushing plays at tight end, and they'll run out Jude James for any passing plays at tight end. And that's one of the reasons why Texas A&M was like, oh, they're running. Like, oh no, they're on to us. Like, how could they tell? But Brett Norfleet could do both, right? He's a pretty good pass catcher. He's an excellent run blocker, especially yesterday. Oh my God. Some of the blocks that he was doing were great, especially at the point of the attack. Man, he was flattening dudes, or at least laying on them, and that cleared the path for a couple of those Hardy cutbacks. So it was really great to have him back in the run game. Of course, keeps defenses on their toes, and just another awesome run blocking guy that we can get out there, which is always fun. It was good to have him back. And what was it? It was a separated shoulder. Is that what it was? I forget what his issue was.
Yeah. Yes, it was a separated or dislocated shoulder, I think. And
okay,
I don't know if it was. I assume it's the same one he had injured last year.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, it seems like he's got at least one shoulder that's made of paper mache. But
it was rock and rolling yesterday. That's what I know for sure.
It was nice to have him back. He is, even if they're not able to target him too much, he's definitely a threat when he's on the field. And he's a really good blocker too. And he's just a good player all around to have on the field, and a weapon that you want whether or not they use him a lot or not.
And apparently he's the 8th best tight end tight end prospect according to Mel Kiper, if you still believe anything that guy says. But there you go.
Oh, I can believe it. That said, I think he's probably more likely to come back next year because of missing time. He has yet to put together a full season under his belt. So, I would think he would want to do that to maximize his prospects. But,
unless you just want to get injured on payroll instead.
True. Well, he is getting injured on payroll. That's the positive that is the positive of the current system.
Can you make more as a college tight end or a professional tight end? I'm assuming
it really depends. It really depends on when you get drafted.
Yeah.
If he goes, if he's the 8th best tight end, that's probably a 4th or maybe a 5th round grade.
3 or 4?
Not 8 tight ends now. Probably a 5th round grade. I don't know what his NIL situation is, but there's a real chance he could be making an equal amount of money.
Yeah.
And for a 5th round draft pick, 6th round draft pick. Yeah.
Well, the 2 guys you absolutely have to keep are Zollers and Olugbide. Everyone else, you'll figure it out or renegotiate. But I do like Brett Norfleet a lot. He's so helpful to have on the field. Just opens up everything else, and like I said, it keeps the defense on their toes, which is really nice.
Yeah. I would push back a little bit on that. I think you need to keep one of Roberts and Hardy. Certainly, you'd love to have both of them back, but you really and running backs in this system, it seem like Drinkwitz can find a guy, and Curtis Hooper can find a guy that'll work. Yeah. But both those guys are really good. I would love to have them both back. I hope they are both back. But you don't want to lose both of them either. So you want to have at least one guy coming back who is familiar with the system that can excel in the system. And then you got some young guys coming, that are already there that can take on a bigger role as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I was viewing it more as like, does Olugbide get bored with only one spectacular catch per game? Does he feel like he's getting enough targets? Or, I guess it is possible that Hardy and or Roberts go, hey, someone's paying me blankety blank over here. Like, I'm going to go. So yeah, in that theory, yes, you should probably bring one of those 2 back. But yeah, I don't know. 300 yards, man. And he didn't even look tired. That last 50-yarder, he covered it in so fast. I'm like, my dude's not even tired yet. That's incredible.
No. Yeah, as soon as he broke the line on that last long run, I'm just sitting right there waving goodbye the second, because you knew he was gone, and that wasn't even The 72-yarder, he might have gotten tracked down. There was a little touch and go there at the very end as to whether you get tracked down. But that 50-yarder, it's like, okay, he's proven that he's faster when he's top speed than these guys. So if he breaks the line, he's going to be gone. And he was, and it was really fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, the other big thing, with this game in particular, it's all the rumors swirling around Eli Drinkwitz and where he's going to work next year. And everybody outside of Missouri seems to think he's going somewhere else. And everyone inside Missouri is like, I don't think so. And there's an interesting point. Tom Hart, the play-by-play guy, Mizzou guy, by the way, he said on the broadcast that Eli Drinkwitz told him that Mizzou needs to be more competitive in NIL. And specifically that there are, I think he said 13 Fortune 500 companies in the state of Missouri, none of which advertise with the university. Okay. Is this, I was like, is this a leverage play? Is this like, hey, this is what I'm actually concerned about? Or am I trying to, talk to other jobs to leverage more buy-in from the state? Like, what am I supposed to read of this, Nathan Hurst?
I don't know. It was a kind of a strange comment. I mean, not strange that Tom Hart mentioned it on the air. Probably not strange that he had that conversation, a little candid probably with him. Yeah. I don't, because what is Mizzou supposed to do about that? You can't tell me they haven't been pitching Anheuser-Busch really hard for decades. And they do advertise. They've always advertised with Mizzou. But you also can't really have an athlete getting in, doing NIL commercials with Anheuser-Busch. I just don't think that's going to work out. So that cuts down, quite a bit of, your Fortune 500 company potential money there. What is
Ameren, what Centene, like there are other options there.
I mean, there are options, but what can the Mizzou athletic department do about that other than continue to hope that they will pay? Because if the top people there don't have allegiance to Mizzou, then what are they going to care? If Eli Drinkwitz, you want money from us, we're not going to give it to you. Okay, that's not their concern either.
Yeah.
So unless he thinks okay, well maybe I can get more money in a different area from the university because I'm mad about this. I don't know. Yeah. It was interesting just because, what are we going to, that's not something that could be controlled.
Yeah.
To be honest. Unless there is behind the scenes where he's had discussions where Mizzou's turned down offers of NIL from those companies and that's made him mad. I can't say that that's the case at all. That's the only thing I could think of that might be within the university's control in one way or another.
Or if he's just saying, look, I'm, and this is all proverbial, I'm not reporting anything, but like if he does talk to a Penn State or a Florida and they're saying, hey, here's your war chest that you get to play with. X amount for you, X amount for your staff, X amount for your players. Mm-hmm. And he comes back and he says, guys, this is what I could have. Okay. I don't care how you get it, but I am looking to stay. And to do that, I need X for me, X for my staff, X for the players. And maybe that's it. And maybe he's a little like, hey, there's Fortune 500 companies you've yet to tap. Thank you, Elia. Thank you. So I don't know where this comes from. But, like, I do know two things. Number one, I know that Mizzou swims in deeper waters with NIL. Like, a lot of people looked at Mizzou as, like, their peers would be like an Oklahoma State, maybe a Vanderbilt, an Arizona, a Colorado, Minnesota, teams of those like good teams that have not like broken through,
mid-level P5 teams.
Yeah, exact. There, easier way to say it. That's who they determined Mizzou's peers were, and then Mizzou just blew them out of the water. And so, really, what you're comparing Mizzou now is to like your Penn States, Florida, Texas, Alabama's, LSU, stuff like that. And so now that you're in that deeper pool. It's like, okay, well, we got there, but Mizzou had like a 3-year window of NIL advancement where you had the high school players' ability to sign as a senior and start getting paid as a senior in high school. And then you had a massive, consolidation of focus from funds from the state towards the football program before really any of the other programs did. And there's a small window, we talked about this even at the time, that Missouri had to take advantage of this when they had it because other states would catch up. They pass laws or the schools would just get their stuff together and they would catch up. And I think we are in that era where that window of advance, like that the advantage, has been closed. However, That doesn't mean you can't improve it. Doesn't mean you can't find ways to spend and invest the way that these bigger schools do. And I think what Eli or his agent or whatever have discovered is kind of what that can be. And so this might have been just a public or like you said, like a candid that became public. Thanks, Tom. Comment on like, here's what I'm looking for to stick around. And I don't know how serious he is about that, but if someone is saying, hey, I can offer you an easier path and more money to do it, it's a convincing argument.
Yeah, for sure. And kind of thinking about it a little bit more, he was not telling Tom Hart that for Tom Hart's benefit or for our benefit. He was communicating that displeasure or that frustration with somebody. And maybe there is an untapped market there, or at least a market he feels is untapped from the university's perspective. And maybe this is, that's who he's communicating to. This, if you want to keep me, this is a market we need to get into more. I don't know. Not in the middle of that. I don't know what their marketing department or ad buying department is doing these days, or ever for that matter. So yeah, hard to know. But he was clearly communicating something to someone. What that was and how that will end up, we'll find out probably here in about 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah. So yeah, don't worry about it, folks. I'm telling you, even if he leaves, that's a good thing, because you're going to be able to find somebody who's up and coming and is going to bring a new vision. And yeah, you'll lose a lot of players for it, but you get to reboot, start over, and see what the new guy can do, and who's be in a much better place than what Eli came in and doing. And if he sticks around, great. The guy who built this thing up is still here. Awesome. Let's keep going. So there's really, other than the sadness of losing somebody like they died, having somebody go somewhere else, it's not that bad. We're going to be okay. But yeah, also Missouri won. Hey, that's pretty great. Mississippi State
7 wins now. 7 wins. We got, a chance to get 8, 9, 10 is still on the table.
Technically.
It would be wonderful to ruin Oklahoma's season. That would just fill my heart with glee. We'll talk more about the chances of that happening later this week, but it's on the table. It's not impossible.
It's not impossible, especially after they barely eked out a win over Alabama while playing like mostly crap, except for those 2 turnovers. Sometimes that's enough, even for Alabama. So, but yeah, we'll get into that in the midweek. And there's plenty of other stories that we're going to be talking about that you can read on rockmnation.com. But hey, that's the show for today. As always, we appreciate the downloads and the subscriptions. You can leave a comment or you rate us. We love all types of feedback from you all. You can follow us on Twitter at Matt and H.E. Edwards. He's at Burst of Hearst. Of course, you can follow the Rock'em flagship at Rock'em Nation and our podcasting outlet at Rock'em Radio. We appreciate you tuning in this time. We'll try to do better next time. And until then, MIZ.
ZOU.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Rock'em Radio, a proud partner of Fans First Sports Network. Rock'em Radio is the official podcast network of Rock'em Plus, a new and exciting subscription service provided by me and the other voices of Rock'em Radio. Please take a few moments to head over to rock'em.plus and sign up for an account today. The cost is only $5 a month, and the benefits include access to our live podcast, a subscriber-only message board, weekly newsletters, and more. If you enjoyed this episode of Rock'em Radio and would like to see more just like it beamed directly into your personal device, make sure to click the subscribe button below and tell your friends. Our podcast feed is available through the Apple Podcast app for iPhone, Google Podcast app for Android, whatever app you listen to your podcast. You can also find Rock'em Radio on Spotify. If you're looking for a podcast about your favorite team that is not the Missouri Tigers, Fan First Sports Network is your answer. A full podcast network loaded with the team-specific podcasts covering Major League Baseball, the NFL, NHL, NBA, MLS, and more. And we'll be back with more episodes of Rock'em Radio coming to you soon.